To channel, we are in our blood physiology. So let us see some details, importance of red blood cells and also red blood cell synthesis, so that we can get a clear concept. So red blood cells are also called as erythrocytes. So primarily they are formed in the bone marrow, because bone marrow is a major house for our red blood cells. So from there they come out. How they are formed. First, the pluripotent stem cells, they are divided into lymphoid and myeloid. This lymphoid and myeloid are multipotent stem cells. So pluripotent to multipotent, and from multipotent to colony forming units. There is colony forming unit for erythrocytes, megaloblasts, colony forming unit for granulocytes, monocytes. So from this erythroblast, megakaryoblast, it is divided into colony forming unit of erythrocytes, colony forming units of megaloblasts. So this erythrocytes convert into RBC, megaloblast converts into platelets. We know this. So first we are mainly focusing on our RBC. So RBC actually first it's having a proerythroblast state. This is a rapidly proliferating state. And from this proerythroblast state, it is converted into basophilic erythroblast. In the name only you can understand, basophilic means blue granules are present, blue erythroblast. Here lot of ribosomes are present in the cytoplasm. So it gives an intense blue color, and the nucleus is smaller, and euchromatin is in the center, and it is about 17 microns, and only few heterochromatin appear early. These are also called as early normoblasts. And this proerythroblasts have open nucleus. This is very large nucleus, and the cytoplasm is basophilic, and chromatin is also here euchromatic, that is loose, fine, and it is having the prominent nucleoli, which is a factor to produce the ribosome proteins. And remember that the proerythroblast is in starting 20 micron. So you can understand, from the proerythroblast to converting into erythroblast, its size is decreasing from 20 micron to 17 micron. So if you observe further also, the size decreases when we finally the mature RBC is formed. So DNA and RNA take the blue color mainly. So even in the cytoplasm, as the ribosomes are present, their proteins are associated with this, so all this appear blue in color. So they are mainly basophilic. So now let us move on to polychromatic erythroblast. Polychromatic, only in the name you can understand, it is having different colors in a erythroblast. Mainly it has a red and blue color. So it is intermediate normoblast. As we said, basophilic erythroblast is early normoblast, and this polychromatic erythroblast is called intermediate normoblast, and it stains blue and also red. So it is of 14 micron size. So now you can see early erythroblast is 17, and it is converting into 14 now, decreasing in the size, and the nucleus is condensed. So at the beginning we have said the nucleus is very big, nucleoli is also very big and prominent, but you can see as moving on further, in the polychromatic erythroblast, a nucleus is getting condensed, nucleoli is also disappearing, and the hemoglobin is also growing now. As the hemoglobin is growing, as I said, this polychromatic has some light, some blue color, some red color. That red color is mainly due to growing hemoglobin, and that blue color is due to mainly the blue crystals, basophilic crystals in a cytoplasm, which continues even here. So this is about to be expelled out. Now you can see this is hemoglobin. Now hemoglobin and the cells is now going to be expelled out. Now the final one is the orthochromatic erythroblast. So this orthochromatic erythroblast is also called as orthochromatic normocyte, because it's a normal cell. So it is heavily hemochromatinized. So you can understand the color. So the orthochromatic erythroblast will be for sure in a complete red color when compared with blue color, and it is 10 microns. So you can see from 20 microns now the cell has come to 10 microns, and mainly it is dominant in eosinophilic nature. As having a main dominant eosinophilic in nature, this appears more red color when compared with all these structures. Now let us see the maturation. So when maturation happens, the nucleus in the early cells have the open nucleus euchromatic, and now it is converting into heterochromatin, that is a condensed form. So the nucleus is getting condensed from starting to the end stage, that is by forming a mature RBC, and the cytoplasm, lot of enzymes and proteins starting blue is present, blue color. Later it is now converting into red, mainly presence of lot of hemoglobin, and also increase the synthesis of ribosomes, and of course messenger RNA. And size is decreasing from the starting to beginning, as we discussed, from the starting to end. So that's it. So finally the left cell is highly immunized, that is the last orthocytic normocyte is highly immunized with the network of blue cells called the reticulocyte. So reticulocyte is a fresh RBC which reaches the blood circulation, and the ribosomes disappear and they form the mature erythrocytes. So remember, in a mature RBC or mature erythrocytes, it is nothing but coming from the reticulocyte. It reaches the blood now from the bone marrow into the circulation. So this mature RBC doesn't have nucleus, doesn't have mitochondria, and don't have endoplasmic reticulum. This is very important point to remember regarding our mature RBC. And now we'll move on to see, you can see here 1 to 2% of reticulocyte is present in our normal blood. And aplastic anemia Aplastic anemia, in our anemia lecture we already discussed. Aplastic means from the bone marrow only there is problem, that in bone marrow is not able to produce red blood cells, that is stopped reticulocyte formation in the bone marrow itself, that is the aplastic anemia. So in that we have discussed that there is problem in the bone marrow to not able to produce red blood cells. So especially there is problem in a reticulocyte. The reticulocyte is not able to form properly, so that in the bone marrow, so that RBC is low in our body and leading to anemia. So now we need to discuss erythropoietin. Erythropoietin is mainly released from the kidney and it reaches the bone marrow and mainly promote the production of more proerythroblast, so that it can produce more RBC. So erythropoietin mainly increases the proerythroblast, because the proerythroblast only later forms a final mature RBC. And remember that this erythropoietin is a glycoprotein. Glycoprotein, glyco word only you can understand, it is a combination of carbohydrates along with the proteins. So in a kidney around the nephron, mainly where this erythropoietin is found in the kidney around the nephron, that is in the endothelial cells of peritubular capillary network. So there is a peritubular capillary network around the glomerulus. So their endothelial cells mainly have this erythropoietin. So when it is released, whenever there is low oxygen in the blood, then they synthesize the erythropoietin, so that more RBC is increased, so the oxygen capacity of the blood can increase. So this is also like a negative feedback mechanism. So whenever our tissues undergo the process of hypoxia, whenever there is low oxygen to our tissues, so to help this condition, our kidney just activates in our peritubular area endothelial cells, it start producing the erythropoietin, and this erythropoietin now reaches our blood and reaches our bone marrow and form more amount of proerythroblast. As more amount of proerythroblast is formed, more amount of RBC, mature RBC is formed. As more amount of mature RBC is formed, it has a more capacity now to carry our oxygen to the tissues, so that hypoxic condition is completely vanished. So this is the main key feature of our erythropoietin released from our kidney. Now let us see RBC basic characters. So the basic characters of RBC is like a diameter 7 to 8 microns, and the size, it's in the center it's 1 micron and edges 2.5 microns. So it's like all simple features we already discussed. And remember this thing, RBC also have a cell membrane. So RBC have cell membrane. On that cell membrane only we have antigens to in blood grouping we will learn that. And also it has proteins mainly associated with the membrane, and also have hemoglobin of course. And it's a biconcave disc, oxygen can exchange more due to increase in surface area. As more surface area, more oxygen can easily exchange and facilitate further facilitate the folding of RBC, so that it can pass through the lean channels. So whenever there are very thin blood vessels, it can easily pass, so that because of its biconcave shape, and also because of more surface area, more membrane, so that membrane can undergo the process of folding, so that it can easily pass through the thin vessels. So now let us see the membrane proteins. So there are some membrane proteins in RBC known as integrins. So the network of inner proteins get attached to the membrane proteins or peripheral proteins. So this actually this is a membrane of RBC. So here we have some peripheral proteins, here internal proteins. These are mainly hooked or attached by means of this integrins. So that whenever inner layer is gone, at least outer layer is present, and it can easily pass through the membrane, lean channels. And RBC have an extra membrane, so it structures it when passes through a thin tube-like structures. It keep on losing the membrane, so the shape changes to the spherical, and they lose their flexibility. If they change into spherical, they lose their flexibility. So to prevent all this internal protein network called the structural protein, they are in touch with the membrane not to lose their membranes. So always there is a structural protein along with that is extra protein always present to the RBC for security, because whenever it moves to the small channels, it may lose its membrane. If it loses completely, then it loses flexibility, it may become spherical, that is spherocytosis may take place, is an abnormal condition. So to prevent all these things, always an RBC carries an extra membrane. And the network proteins are mainly spectrins, not only integrins, we also have spectrins which hold, and also we have ankyrin surface proteins and 4.1 membrane proteins, glycoproteins. So all these different types of proteins are present. So if the genes are mutant and defective in that proteins, then the RBC becomes spherical. So if some genes are mutant and defective, then the RBC becomes spherical, and this disease is called hereditary spherocytosis. So hereditary spherocytosis is running in the families. They have some defective mutation, so that their RBC are formed in spherical shape instead of biconcave shape. shape, and they stain without any central panel, that is they don't have any central panel, and mild heredity elliptic, and also some cases maybe if it's the spherocytosis is mild, then it may be called as hereditary elliptocytosis. And this also is stuck in a narrow areas in the spleen where there narrow tubes of where there are narrow tubes of circulation. In spleen only, in a white pulp of a spleen, red pulp, in the spleen only mainly these erythrocytes are squeezed out, so that because of this abnormal shapes they are stuck there, and they're eaten up by our macrophages. So hemolysis also takes place, and RBC is decreased. Whenever hemolysis means breakdown of RBC, if there is breakdown of RBC, number of RBC decrease, number of hemoglobin decrease. And also remember, yeah, there is no mitochondria in RBC, and they have enzymes to produce mainly energy. Other enzymes are present instead of mitochondria. So no nucleus in RBC. So during their death or when they become older, they are not flexible and their proteins decrease. So as older older RBC have some their abnormal shapes and abnormal proteins, so that the flexibility decreases and they easily get stuck and eaten up by macrophages. So let us see about hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is an important protein in RBC, everyone know, because it has sperm, it has oxygen capacity. So all these things we know. So erythroblast mainly produce a pyrrole ring. So you can say this is a pyrrole ring. So four pyrrole rings are produced, and this is called as protophyrin ring. Especially it is called as protophyrin 9. If you have seen my hemoglobin video, you can easily understand this is a protophyrin ring. And if the iron is put in the center, it is called heme. So along with protophyrin rings, protophyrin rings 9 along with the iron, then this molecule is called heme. And globin is attached, globin chains are present, right? So heme along with globin chain is added, and now it is called as hemoglobin monomer. So you can see here hemoglobin. So different monomers of hemoglobin are here. If it is having beta globin, then it is called as beta hemoglobin. If gamma globin is present, gamma hemoglobin. So like the delta and also alpha. So like this there are four globins chains. So 2 alpha plus 2 beta is forming an hemoglobin A, mainly present in adults. About 96% is common hemoglobin A, and 2 alpha with the 2 gamma, then delta, it is hemoglobin A2. It is also present in adult, but it's rare, only 4%. And next, coming to 2 alpha with 2 gamma, it is present in fetal life. It is more affinity for oxygen and can take from the maternal side too. So you can understand, in fetus we need more oxygen to the baby, so that she can he or she can that baby can easily take this oxygen from maternal side to her fetal side. So next we have mutation in beta chain or any chain of globin. Then it is called thalassemia. Thalassemia is of like alpha type, beta type. If there is any alterations in alpha globin chain, beta globin chain, then it is called as thalassemia. Now once let us understand the blood grouping somewhat in a short form. Next we will have a detailed discussion on it. So here coming to blood grouping, you have ABO and RH blood grouping. So first let us see ABO. So our RBC have antigen on its cell membrane. So if it has A antigen, then it is A group. B antigen, B group. Both AB antigens are present, then AB group, and only H antigen is present, then it is O group. So like this we divide the blood groups. And now let us see what is present in plasma. So if a person have blood group A, you might think that he should have anti-A antibody, but not he's having anti-B, because whenever we eat any food or any other microbes, whatever they bring both A and B antigen to our body. So if already in our body there is blood group A, then our body thinks as blood group A as its self antigen. As blood group A is self antigen, so in by food or any other microbes, both A and B come. So as A is thought as self antigen, now the antibodies produced against B. So this is the theory behind this. So you can understand now. For the blood group A, the plasma produce anti-B because A is a self-antigen. And for blood group B, B is self-antigen, so it produces against A, so anti-A. And these are called as hemoagglutins. And for blood group AB, you can understand now both A, B are present in our food, right? So no antibodies are produced because both A and B are thought as self antigens, are both are ours. Then how our body can produce antibodies against it? So in plasma there will be no antibodies for blood group A and B. And for blood group O, you can think O is a self antigen. Then our body don't know A and B, both are against, both are enemies to it. So it produces both anti A and anti B antibodies. So this is the concept we need to understand. So now we'll see the receivers. So for example, now we want to transfer the blood to some persons. So how we do blood transfusion according to groups. So for example, a blood group A. Blood group A can be, the blood group A donor is there and giving receiver. So who can receive this? For example, you can say here blood group A can receive it, blood group O can receive it. Because blood group A is a self antigen, and he produces anti B but not anti A. So anti B in its body cannot affect the blood group A. So blood group A person can take blood group A. For example, to understand this, if you remember, if you are a receiver and someone is giving blood to you, and if you take blood group B, if you are A positive, A blood group person, and if you are taking B group, then what happens? You can understand A person, your A person, so you will produce anti B to it. So if you take B group, it will get destroyed, coagulated. So it may also cause shock sometimes, because whole body that anti B is distributed. And if you take AB also, it is a problem because you will form anti B. But if you take O, it is not problem, because in O you can understand, you will produce means if you take O, you will produce anti A, that's it, but no problem to O. So like that. So for blood group A, the receivers are AO. For blood group B, the receivers are BO, and blood group AB, the receivers are A B O. All they can take because they are not producing any antibody, so no problem. And for blood group O, only O should take, because they are producing anti A, anti B antibody. So if they take AB or AB, it is a problem for them. So this is about receivers. So now you can see that if blood group A person eats AB group food, then it produces an anti-B antibody, because it is not a self blood group. That's what we have discussed. Now let us see ABO incompatibility. That is when you take by any injections or blood transfusion, what happens. So both donor plasma and concentration of a membrane when given to the recipient body. Yeah. So both donor plasma and concentration of A blood group membrane when given to the recipient body of blood group B. For example, if we give A blood group to B person, then what happens? He produces anti-A antibody to destroy the donor's blood and cannot be given to him. So the free hemoglobin reaches the kidney and destroy it and release more mast cells, which release the histamine, and blood vessels dilate, and the person or recipient may suffer the shock, because you can understand this person is performing anti B antibodies because it's A blood group, and we are giving B blood group to him, then he will produce anti B antibodies, so that this may affect in this. So always the donor's antibody don't attack the recipient. This is very important point. So the donor antibody will not do anything, only your antibody, the receiving antibody, will attack the recipient antigen, but the recipient's antibody attacks the donor antigen. And AB is a universal receiver and O is a universal donor. Now we'll see the RH. RH is discovered mainly in a rhesus monkey's RBC. So RH antigen, if it is present, then RH positive will say, that is A positive for example, A positive. And if you say someone person is A negative, means he is not having RH antigen on it, so it is A negative. So whenever you say you are B positive or A positive, O positive, etc., means you are having the RH antigen in you. If you are saying you are A negative, B negative, means there is no RH antigen. Now let us see one example here. For example, if an Rh negative woman is pregnant and her fetus is Rh positive, this causes a very big disease. So you can see about half ml of the blood reaches the woman usually in the delivery of the first baby. So when the first baby is delivered, this Rh positive blood will go to the mother and it will initiate its antibody. So now what happens? The mother antibody start producing Rh, anti-Rh positive, because mother is Rh negative, right? So she will produce anti-Rh positive antibodies against the baby. So if then second time pregnant, so you can see woman makes anti-Rh positive antibody in her circulation. So if she becomes second time pregnant with the Rh positive baby, then again the woman blood reaches the baby through the placenta, but the Rh positive with the positive antibody. So this antibody destroys the fetal RBC. So this baby has severe anemia, and this baby blood also again mixes with the woman. So her blood produce more anti-Rh positive antibody again. So for third baby, it's destructive and the baby produce hematosis with enlarged liver, spleen, that is splenomegaly, hepatomegaly, heavy bilirubin form, and may reach the central nervous system and also destroy it. So if the fourth baby then may produce a cardiac failure, and also they form the generalized edema because of this is called as hydrops fetalis. And the spleen and liver also not well for the because of hematopoiesis, and if they continue the precursor cells also may come out to the circulation. So in these babies, they may have erythroblast, so it is called as erythroblastosis fetalis. And treatment is injecting anti-Rh antibodies. It is known as Roglam within 72 hours, and they bind to the positive fetal plate and destroy them. So there is no problem to Rh negative mother. So if you give this injection, they will block these antibodies so that there is no problem to mother or fetus. So, and IgG antibodies having a capacity to pass through the placenta and provide immunity to the baby. So can you understand here? Even the Rh anti-Rh antibodies also IgG, so it can pass through the placenta, and this is taking place. So if IgM, it is only for short time use, and IgG for long term use, powerful, and it is not sent to the baby. Remember that IgM can't pass through the placenta, but IgG can pass, and IgA also, it is given to the baby in the form of milk. So this is all about our RBC detailed discussion, and next we will discuss the RBC indices.